Welcome to another episode of Superhero Gaming with Andrew. Here we are taking on the demons at their hideouts. So,
Missed another call from Doc.
Hang on. Oh, never mind. So, real quick. Oh yeah, I want to talk about
Hey guys,
this.
bird watching? I saw some pigeons over there.
In the Batman Arkham games, there was, back then, quite a bit of controversy over the, detective vision, where it takes away from...
Can't have the ones inside feeling left out.
from the art of the game.
Going down.
Of, like textures and such. But, actually, I argue that detective vision adds to the art. And true, it's annoying that it can be so easy.
MJ, I'm at the first location on your list, and guess what I found?
Demons?
Give the lady a prize. See if you can figure out what they're up to while I introduce myself.
It can be so easy to, just go into detective vision. But, you know what? And the fans question, like, Rocksteady of, like, how are they going to solve that problem? But you know what? That's something that they can't really solve. I mean, true, they would do things like whenever Batman gets out of a crate or something, like, detective vision will go off, but you know what? That's a personal issue with the player, and that's ultimately up to the player. So yeah, and it doesn't affect whatsoever of how great the game is. But yeah, and I felt like for the Spider-Man game, they did it well. Where like they didn't do detective vision, but they had the villains and the objects highlighted, and the HUD screen. They explain it because it's part of Spider-Man's computer HUD. In his mask, and I thought that was clever. I was so happy when they announced that they did the yo-yo, where Spider-Man hangs upside down, because I love that. That's my favorite. Before this, you'd only get it in the Lego games of him being upside down. Well, you could get it in the Beanox games, but you had to swing around and hold still. And honestly, that's pretty stupid. The last time you were able to do something like that on command was in 2002 Spider-Man movie game. But I want to talk about some of the comics in which some of them are my personal favorites of some of these characters. Mr. Negative and Silver Sable and J. Jonah Jameson. So yeah, again, Mr. Negative, in which cool villain, but I felt like he became one of my favorite Spider-Man villains.
Peter, that location's supposedly in a quarter of souvenirs for Chinatown shops.
What they're reporting is not something I want as a memento.
Drugs?
Demons. Looks like they bring in their buddies in shipping containers. Explains how foreign nationals with criminal records are getting into the country.
How in the world do they stay alive if that's the case? Do they have, like, an oxygen tank with them? But, back again. So yeah. This game made me a fan of the villain. Well, not a fan, but Mr. Negative, one of my favorite Spider-Man villains.
But I don't mind repeating myself.
One, they really humanize him and make him very terrifying. And you know, and again, yeah, so some of my favorite comics, in which it was Brand New Day, in which it was where Spider-Man, in which Marvel took him back from being single because before he was married to Mary Jane. They didn't get a divorce. That's all I'm gonna say. I'll tell you later what happened. Let's just say they wound the clock, took him back to being single. But again, and it was interesting because Martin Lee kind of represented
This is like
Peter
when the band's
Parker's
doing its fourth encore and you just
dual
kinda wanna go
lives
home.
as Peter Parker and Spider-Man, where I think that's great because villains should either be a pretender or the real deal of like something that that heavily relates to the hero and the villain, and also reflect who the villain amount of reflect off of the hero, if you know what I mean.
Step right up, fellas.
Plus,
I got plenty of weapons for all of you.
there's this great term of like when Spider-Man and Peter Parker's worlds collide, you get the best stories, and I do agree. Where the villain is Aunt May's boss at Feast, in which again, that's just great, really good. And another favorite story of mine of Mr. Negative is where he it didn't really have much to do with Mr. Negative, but it had a lot to do with Martin Lee, and Martin Lee cured Eddie Brock of his cancer because it was where Eddie Brock was separated from the Venom symbiote and was dying of cancer. And I'll come back to you in a sec. Hang on.
MJ, call the police. All the demons are incapacitated.
Don't forget to bring me a souvenir.
So, yeah, Martin Lee, like, helped Eddie Brock, because Eddie Brock, he felt guilty about his time as Venom, the horrible
Hi,
things he
we
did,
can fight, or hear me out.
and
Barbecue.
how he has been haunted by the Venom symbiote in his mind, and by his own, like, fears and such.
Whew, getting brisk out here. Better go in. And without further ado...
And, so yeah, Martin Lee, he, like, hired Matt Murdock, Daredevil, to, like, represent, what's his name?
Sleep it off.
Not Matt Murdock. Sorry, Eddie Brock, in which Matt Murdock convinced the court, the jury, that Eddie Brock was manipulated by the Venom symbiote, and he was in fact a victim of the Venom symbiote as well. And it worked. So yeah, and Martin Lee gave Eddie Brock purpose at Feast, gave him a job there, helped him, and also, like, through his Mr. Negative powers of using, like, positive charges to, like, heal Eddie from his cancer and the Venom symbiote parts in his body. And I thought that was really cool and neat. And what happens is, and at this time, Matt Gargan, the Scorpion, he was the Venom at the time. And he found Eddie Brock, and the Venom symbiote went nuts and is like, wanted to rejoin with Eddie Brock. And Eddie Brock is like, no. And something weird happened to Eddie. A white, sticky substance formed on it. And it was basically the altered Venom symbiote particles from Eddie's body that Martin Lee altered. And he became anti-Venom. Where as anti-Venom, Eddie was like immune to fire and sonics, but like toxins and poisons affected him deeply.
Oh, hey! You must
And
be
he
the
had the
JVP.
ability to heal people and do things that the symbiote would do. like shapeshift and such. And Eddie Brock owed so much of his life and so much of his second chance at life to Martin Lee and defended, even though he did it badly, the Feast place from the MacGargan Venom. And in another story, when Eddie figured out that Martin Lee is Mr. Negative, it like totally crushed him. And he was like so sad. And he questioned about his redemption.
From what I can see, it's more like illegal weapons. And this might come as a shock, but I don't think they're really bespoke.
The hipster assassins are gonna be so disappointed.
I love rock and roll Spider-Man. So yeah, and
it's not that I'm not glad to see more of you.
So something happened.
Oh no, wait! It is that I'm not glad to see more of you.
Venom, anti-Venom, confronted Martin Lee, and May found out who Mr. Negative was, in which no one else knew who it was, and Mr. Negative like mind warped Aunt May into being like an evil version of herself, a very mean version, and she'd eventually snap out of it. But when she saw Martin Lee, it came back that he's Mr. Negative, and he mind
settle this with some fruit pies.
And Eddie Brock, anti-Venom, like aided Spider-Man in taking on Mr. Negative. So yeah, and I thought that is so cool. So yeah, we're basically, he has a dual identity, Martin Lee. He's a philanthropist, a nice guy. Well, not so much in this game, but where he runs Beast. While his other life, he's Mr. Negative, crime boss. And his hatred for Norman Osborn, is new because it didn't exist in the comics. I'm trying to think what else. But and what's interesting is that Martin Lee helps redeem Eddie Brock, a former villain, and gave him a new second chance at life and turn him into a hero. And that certainly, and how do I say this? In which we're the hero that is redeemed, where he learns that, and it greatly affects him.
You know I'm not one to promote conspiracy.
That is great.
Except ones I think are worthy of further discussion,
And,
like
there's
this
not
one.
many superhero stories
Spider-Man
or
hovering
specific
around radio
superheroes
towers.
that can make me think of that. Of like, a hero was born from a villain that gave him a second chance at life and helped him, but was really a two-faced person.
They really didn't want me going in. Which means...
Yeah, and what's interesting is, in the comics, Martin Lee, most of the time, didn't know that he was Mr. Negative and didn't know what he was doing. So, yeah, I thought that was interesting. So, it was like Jekyll and Hyde.
MJ, I'm at the third location. Apparently it's casual mask day at the office.
Finally, a job where you'll fit right in. Until you start with the face kicking.
Yeah, I have a feeling HR's not gonna be too happy with me.
But sometimes they bleed over. Like, the knowledge and the personalities. And I think, like, the powers that Mr. Negative has is, like, really cool, and how they took a design, like, from a negative, like, negatives from camera rolls. I thought that was pretty incredible. And how when he corrupts people, they kind of, like, are, like, an appearance like they're photo negatives. So yeah, and there's not many other Martin Lee, Mr. Negative stories that are my absolute favorite. So yeah, I do wish they somehow adapt, but then that'll be difficult because, well, it would go against like so many of the stories of like, because they of like Martin Lee's Mr. Negative origin story, in which he didn't have an origin story in the comics, but in the game they gave him one, and it's a really good one. So yeah. Okay, and Silver Sable. So I gotta say, for her costume, at first I wasn't such a fan because I really liked the old classic one, which is my favorite, even though art director, in which, you know, I can respect that and see that she's like basically a 1980s like fitness outfit with leg warmers, and you know, I can kind of see that. I can, though maybe she didn't say leg warmers. Please forgive me if you hear this and if I accidentally misquote you. That's not my intent. But yeah, it took me a while to warm up to Silver Sable's costume in the game, which I realized, you know what, it's cool. The trench coat, and true, she doesn't have her bandana, but I think it's cool, the trench coat and whatnot. And they kind of kept like the shaped like symbol that she has for her costume. It's almost like a T, but you know, kind of like it's a thing that goes all the way around.
Reinforcements! Unless you're just Natalie dressed paparazzi? Yeah, I didn't think so.
Silver Sable stories that I really love. Ends of the Earth is where...
Peter, that location's a clearinghouse for donations to least charities. Clothes, books. They're trucked in from drop boxes all over town.
Sounds like a perfect distribution network for drug running, which it looks like is their real priority.
But yeah, oh yeah, Ends of the Earth, where she helps Spider-Man and Black Widow save
How do you
the
back
world
guys get
from
here so fast?
the
No, it's not the 6th train.
the Sinister Six and Dr. Octopus from like from coming up away from trying to save the Earth from climate change from the most horrible way possible. That would practically be like killing off so much of humanity that it was so that he's like, it's worth the risk. At least that they'll still be alive, and I can always teach humanity and teach them to appreciate me, and that I'll be their teacher. And in my mind, I'm like, that's horrifying. And the story ends where Silver Sable was caught by Rhino.
I mean, there's only so many mass variations.
And she was gonna die, and Spider-Man had to let her die in order to save the Earth from Doc Ock. And it was such a huge moment, even though she survived and came back. But what happened earlier, in which it made the loss at the time even more tragic, she kind of like opened herself up to Spider-Man and admit that she had feelings for him. And where he said to Silver Sable that there was someone that, where he let her down gently. He's like, there is someone that I already love, that I'm already committed to, even though technically they weren't dating. But yeah, another story that I love is The Man Out of Time. No, not A Man Out of Time. Out of Time story. Where, it's a... Oh man, how do I... It's basically like a preview into the future.
MJ, I've got the place locked down.
Great. I'll call in an anonymous tip. I bet if the police check out those drop boxes, they'll find something more interesting than secondhand jeans.
Spider-Man, through this time-traveling mirror, gets to see the future, or time-traveling door, gets to see tomorrow. and he sees that tomorrow is like basically the apocalypse, and he does everything he can trying to figure out and to stop the apocalypse from happening. And
Hey, is this roof taken?
oh, what happened? And one of the things he did where he stopped a terrorist from blowing up Simkaria's festival, which was being taken place at New York. And it was during when J. Jonah Jameson was mayor of New York. And Silver Sable was so grateful for Spider-Man, she's like, please let me, on behalf of Simkaria, thank you. In which she gives him a kiss.
So much for the opening act. Main event's inside. Let's dive right in.
So yeah, another story is where the Sinister Syndicate almost were like close to killing Spider-Man and Silver Sable because the two were vastly outgunned. And while Sandman was a good guy at the time, he came in and helped even the odds. And Silver Sable, where she's like, you know what, at one point she's like, you know what, I don't care about these bad guys. I'm not going to get paid for it, because she's a person for hire. And, whoa. It didn't go the way that I wanted to go. I saw another, what's his name? Swiftly Unknown, like, these crazy good guys like trying to do special tricks, and do you know what I'm like? Just keep it simple. Small things bring out the best things in the world. Hang on a sec, let me see something. And let's see how it goes this time around. And man, I can't believe I like tried so hard, because starting a YouTube channel I was so nervous, and I thought, you know, I gotta get this perfect so that I can that worked out better-ish of like be so perfect for YouTube, but then I realized I couldn't. And it was such a mistake on my part to try to be like other gamers. And I love this defense shield that they have that's tied to this costume, but again, it's kind of useless because I'm so used to like going around and dodging. No offense, but yeah, that's just me. But yeah, back to Silver Sable told Spider-Man, you know what? I'm not getting paid to take on the Sinister Syndicate, and I don't want to die like facing them. Of like, it's not worth it because I want to get paid. And but Spider-Man's like, you know what? No, you can stay here, but I'm gonna take on these bad guys. And she's like,
new guys! I'm sure you do way better than these guys just like you who I wiped the floor with.
Not hesitantly, but begrudgingly, like, joins Spider-Man to help him. And she's like, I do not want Spider-Man's family.
Huh. I didn't know they started making laptops out of guns.
So it's an armory?
Not for long. I'm about to get some payback for Jeff Davis and everyone else that killed at City Hall.
But,
more of them! Good! I meant to ask you, have you
when she
deal with
begrudgingly
your mask?
helping him, and she's like, I don't want to get sued by Spider-Man's family. Oh yeah, that was me doing a different suit power, but I gotta be honest, with this game and the Miles game, I already have it all set out of like my favorite suit mods and whatever. And I purposely tried it because, one, I was kind of bored, and two, I was doing so good, but it just didn't feel like me. Yeah. Yeah, so that's one of the suit mods where if you get hit, oh yeah, where if they hit you, they'll get shocked by electricity. But yeah, and I can't think of any other Silver Sable stories other than when Peter Parker, when he's basically Tony Stark has his own business at one point in the comics, and Spider-Man declares war, in which this is his like costume when he's rich and has a company, where he declares war on Norman Osborn, Green Goblin, and he is invading. Well, he took over. Okay, I don't remember, but basically Sicaria was ruled by an evil dictator after Silver Sable's absence, and Norman Osborn was being holed up in Sicaria, and where Spider-Man was painfully reminded about Gwen Stacy's death, and he was on a war path to find Norman Osborn and take out all of his anger and frustrations on him. This was the time where Norman Osborn forgot who Spider-Man was. I think I'm trying to get a specific dodge here or something. Oh. Come on. What am I trying to do here? Part of me is like, come on, just finish him. But again, I have so much pride where I want to show you guys I'm the absolute best. Especially of like getting all the little objectives out of each like crime or enemy base, which I gotta give that up and just let you guys take your word for it. Oh, I'm trying to do a takedown. That's what I'm trying to do. There we go. Honestly, I'm too good at this game that I can easily blow
MJ,
through so much of it and be
everything's
like, oh
quiet here
wait,
now.
I'm supposed to do this.
You didn't get too carried away, did you? What they did was horrible, but you're not.
But yeah, Silver Sable helps Spider-Man, and where they retake
this is
Sicaria.
what trains could mean
and
Okay, let's see what's
oh,
happening
that's
inside.
awesome.
Geronimo!
Geronimo. But no, not Martin Lee, not but yeah. Those are some of my favorite Silver Sable stories. Oh, another one that I really love is in Ultimate Spider-Man, where she is tasked by I'm trying to remember his name. Not King. No, oh yeah, a Roxxon CEO to find Spider-Man and bring him to him. In which why he did that is he wants to learn why Spider-Man keeps getting involved and helping save his company whenever a supervillain attacks. Especially when some of the supervillains were created by them. And Silver Sable's like, seriously? That's the reason you wanted me to get him and bring him here so you can ask him? Oh, again. I am never ever gonna do that again, of like restarting things of like to be perfect. It can get nerve-wracking of like being so carried away about like everyone's gonna be watching me, but I realize I just gotta be me and stop trying so hard to be everyone and be perfect. But yeah, and how Silver Sable gets Spider-Man, because where I don't know how, but she figured out some way that Peter Parker attended high school at Midtown High, and whenever they got a reading on Spider-Man, she would come across Flash Thompson, the bully, and she'd be like, hello, Spider-Man. He's like, I'm not Spider-Man. And he's cry about it. She kicked his butt and, like, literally, like, kicked his behind. And he'd be like, oh, where? And he's running away. And she's like, that's not Spider-Man.
Be honest.
And
You were all waiting next door until I thought I'd
they
won
set a
just to
trap
be
for
mean.
Spider-Man, but Flash Thompson gets caught again, and she's like, oh, for crying out loud.
Peter, it looks like
And,
Lee took over a
Flash
legitimate auto
Thompson.
repair business.
Explains where the demons get all their vehicles. Trucks, ambulances.
Exactly. You shut this down, they'll have a tougher time moving around the city unnoticed.
I would hate to see the group text that got you
But
out
yeah,
here.
Flash Thompson, after all is said and done, he meets up with like TV executives that get the story about like how he has been like, attacked by Silver Sable just to get Spider-Man and like kidnapped 2 times. And Flash goes to his room and Spider-Man, all dressed up, he goes to his room and webs his mouth and is like, shh, Flash, don't say anything when he's about to scream. Like, I need to know
Hold on.
who
Before we
keeps on
start,
kidnapping
we
you
check the maximum
and,
occupancy for this
and
place.
I'll help you. And so when everything was all said and done, at the end of the story, Lifetime Movie Network or some cable network made a movie, a very dramatized TV movie of Flash Thompson's experience with Spider-Man, in which they make it seem like Flash Thompson was ready to beat the crap out of Spider-Man with a baseball bat in his room, and Spider-Man's like, Flash, come on, I don't want to do this. It was like, you and I are friends, and Flash is like, oh no, I've put up with too much grief because of you. Trust me when get ready for this, webhead, because it's clobbering time! And Wolverine of the X-Men bursts out laughing so hard, and he's like, oh my gosh, this is the greatest thing ever. And while the X-Men, they were all watching the Lifetime movie.
I may have just done the opposite
Movie
of
about-
repair at this repair shop.
Don't worry, I'll get the cops down there. They'll clean things up.
But, yeah, it was so funny. And Spider-Man overheard because at the time his girlfriend was Kitty Pryde of the
That's all
X-Men.
the places I could link to Martin Lee. We just made life a lot harder for the demons.
And easier for the DA to build a case against him. Thanks, MJ. I owe you dinner.
I'll tell you about my favorite J. Jonah Jameson's stories later. But hey, take care, guys. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And check out our channel out at Rumble. All right, bye. Oh, and I hope you guys had a Merry Christmas and have a Happy New Year.